Well, hello, internet friends, and welcome to episode number 131 of FinalBossTV, your WoW and game rating show. Back to our regularly scheduled interviews today after the Community Spotlight and the World First interview the last 2 Sundays. My name is Adam KK Bay. I will be your host for this adventure. Today is Havoc Demon Hunters, or the full title for YouTube purposes and all this good stuff will be Legion Havoc Demon Hunters, which would be the longest title of a YouTube video ever, almost. It can't be simple. It's not like Arms Warrior or like Enhancement Shaman. It's like a whole sentence. But today, sitting down with 2 guests that have been doing stuff for Havoc now since beta and before. But of course, before that, I want to just give you some updates and things. If you have noticed in the chat, the loyalty badges are live, so the longer you are subscribed, and you can hit the command loyalty in chat. The longer you are subscribed, you now have a new little pixelated badge that we'll show off and see, of course, during the little chat section of the show here, too. But as well, I have to give shout-outs at the beginning of the show here to the support that I continue to grow on for the show on Patreon. So thank you very much. I have to give a little plug and shout out here that if you want to follow along with the show notes, those are available to patrons as well as the BTS podcasts. These are available only to those on Patreon. So you can follow along on show notes if you'd like, and you get the extra little BTS podcast. There is one for this episode. It'll be going live soon, once I get it converted and put up online. But again, thank you. Big shout outs to Troffles, Ludovicus, Taislin, R4, or Raxus, and then Dalthier, the newest assistant producer to the show. Thank you all so much for that. But enough about me rambling about things. Let's introduce my guests today. So one of them, or both of them, Havoc has a thing with memes. So here's Kib. Hi, Kib.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, I guess I'm Kib. I've been playing DH since the first day in beta, and pretty much fell in love with the class. And now, yeah, we're running memes in Discord and doing all the meme stuff, meme beam, and so on and so forth.
It is the new age. I just wanted to get you started with chat, so
yep.
There it is. Well, Kib, thank you very much for sitting down on the show today. And then co-guesting with you over here is Dreams. Hello, sir. Welcome back.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
You ready to talk about Havoc today? And not Vengeance this time, though.
Yeah, no Vengeance Demon Hunters this time. Luckily, get to play Havoc now. So definitely looking forward to talking about Havoc. Until
you flavor of the month and reroll Warrior in 7.2, right?
We'll see.
Okay. Well, hopefully stay around a little longer than that. But, so, I just want to expound upon that a little bit more. I'm going to go back to Kib real quick in case people don't know who you are and what you do with the community and things, because you have a whole list of things on your Twitter handle. But you want to summarize what you put together and what you guys do, Kib, first, for the Havoc Demon Hunter community, as it were? Go for it.
Yeah, well, like I said quickly a little bit earlier, I've been pretty much going hard with Demon Hunter since beta started. Well, alpha when we first got invited. But yeah, since then I've been hanging out in the Discords and sharing what I found and stuff, like my view on stuff and whatever. It turns out that it was pretty much up to date and a little bit ahead of some stuff sometimes. So we just kept going and just sharing and working on sims and, you know, talents and everything like that. And yeah, basically that's what I do most of the time in Discord, hang out in the community, and without that, the memes, of course. The memes are just for other times. But yeah, there's a hefty amount of sims and play styles and talents and fight builds and all that stuff going around.
I have to ask real quick before I toss that over to Dreams for introduction. Who just for audible mentions and who else to shout out in the Havoc community, who does like the Simcraft work and stuff with you guys? If you want to pinpoint any other players that are out there that deserve a little bit of a name drop.
It used Pocket started the module when back in beta from the get-go, and when he just kind of got away from the game, there's a Zarania that took over the Simcraft module, and there's a handful of people. They're basically mostly it's Zarania and Koji that are working on Simcraft itself.
Okay.
And then there's basically a group of like 5, 6, and anyone else that can come up with ideas that work on the APL consistently to just keep making it better and better and better. So it's basically a community effort, but the people that work on Simcraft itself are mostly Zarania and Koji that have access to the source files and all that stuff.
Awesome. I like to bring that up as sort of an extra layer on these community episodes, these player focused ones, because there are, as the Discord community has grown, and if you haven't heard this on the outside, like out of the top like 15 Discord servers on the planet Earth, like 11 of them are World of Warcraft servers, they're class servers. So we've definitely taken over the platform, and the amount of information that gets like just continuously built and regurgitated and shared in there and pinned and linked over and over again is probably the best time for us as players now to have that platform. So it's like all the best parts of an IRC plus Reddit plus a forum all in one spot. So, and then Dreams, how about you? What do you do in all this?
I don't do any Simcraft stuff as opposed to those guys, but I'm more like a theory crafter guy. Same with Kib. We just talk about builds, figure out what's good, play it, say, okay, this is good. And then obviously the Simcraft guys will do the number crunching, and then we see if it's applicable, because obviously Simcraft doesn't always translate perfectly into gameplay. Some things will sim well or won't sim well, and then I just go in and see if they're actually good. A good example of that is shoulders don't sim well or sometimes sim well. Sometimes you actually have to go in and see. You can't just look at numbers.
Yeah, that's very true. This episode as well, if I've restructured it somewhat as the show sort of evolves in Legion, because we're not gonna talk about so many things that could be written up in a guide, right? Like the Icy Veins guide for Havoc is more or less totally updated right now until the new patch comes out. So there are certain things you'll be able to catch up in there. Like we're not going through like artifact leveling paths anymore, right? There might be some hierarchy to talk about with the new traits coming in once those get more fine-tuned and we figure out that. But I want the shows to be a little more discussionary. So I have a lot of questions for these two nerds that want to like spark a lot of the things that might come up in Discord here and there, but we want to definitely, nose to the grindstone on a couple of these things. So, but I guess the first part we'll talk about here is sort of the general thoughts and feelings towards Havoc. And first, though, what classes or specs, this was a question that was submitted, what classes or specs did you play before making the swap to Havoc? And like, what made you decide to go full steam ahead with playing the new DPS kit on the block, though? Dreams, what bet for you?
Well, on beta, I just started playing DH a lot in 5-mans, and it was like a really fun 5-man class. In WoD, I always did a lot of challenge modes. So playing a class that's good in raids and good in 5-mans was pretty important to me personally. So I just ended up playing DH a lot in beta. And then when Legion came around, I ended up playing Death Knight for the first tier. And then after that, I swapped to Havoc. But yeah, I've been playing it for most of beta, and it's an all-around good class. It's pretty fun. That's why I chose it.
Pretty simple, straight to the point. Kib, what about you?
Yeah.
I've pretty much been playing Farnham classes quite a lot, and so the new kid on the block, DH, it's been really strong in beta, so I invested a lot of time in it. Turns out that when it launched on live, it was still pretty Farnham, so I just sticked with it. Got the ring as well, like on the 4th day of the expansion, so that helped a lot with my Farnham mentality. And yeah, but before that, I've been like Rogue, DK, and Warlock, like Farnham classes all the time.
Well, rogues, I don't know if rogues qualify as flavor of the month, considering rogues have never been bad.
Right.
So
game.
yeah, like I guess there are times that Rogue rises and lowers in priority, like Black Hand where you wanted 3, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I guess that is true. But speaking of other melee, because you've all have dabbled in many of them, and just so Chad is also aware, Havoc is my main ult, so I'm more in tune with these episodes that I can actually like understand. Like obviously if it's enhancement or any shaman spec, or with Havoc now, I've actually played and I play it, and I rate it in the ult rate anyway, so it has mythic kills. So I've done but it's interesting. So some of these questions that I've either come up with is things that I've wondered, but I guess because of the way that this current tier is sitting, mostly how Nighthold is currently, what do you think of the melee situation, and how are these mechanics treating you guys? So you guys are both on Mythical Dan, right? You're both 3 bosses ahead of me. So I don't know. What do you? Who wants to talk about melee mechanics?
Well, we don't really do anything. We just DPS, and then if we get maybe one mechanic on us, we have to run out. But yeah, I mean, melee-wise, I think we're in a pretty good place. I don't think we're the best. I think warriors and DKs are definitely like the melee that you want to like just stack the absolute crap out of. On Gul'dan especially, because they just are really good in that fight. I don't know what Kib thinks about that.
Basically it, yeah. Warriors, well, I don't even know if it's Warriors or if it's just Drought of Soul with Convergence of Fate. It's just like, just shenanigans with these things are just broken on fights. Like, but yeah, Frost DKs are also really insane with like Infinite Breath and whatever. And then you just come like a tiny bit tier under with like half a tier under where you have like Red Paladins and Havoc DH that are like really strong on most fights still. And then I can't really speak for like Ferals or Enhanced because I don't raid with, well, I raid with an Enhanced now, but he just joined the guild a couple of weeks ago. So I can't really speak for much of the fights for Enhanced, but I've never played with a Feral for like the past 3 years. And well, monks are also really, really good. I kind of always forget about them, but yeah.
I don't
besides what they break CCs on Gul'dan, but that's
Survival.
Survival.
Well,
God.
it's funny. It's funny how we were like, there's a sleeper OP in Survival Hunter, and then once we really got the understanding of how Mythic Nighthold is shaping out, with how this is a little bit derisive toward the encounter design team, but almost every encounter in Mythic Nighthold is like, there's an ad, bring it to the boss, cleave it down.
Yep.
So many fights are like that. So if you're if you're a class that naturally has built-in AoE, Havoc, for example, or Enhancement, or Fury Warrior, right, or Windwalker Monk, or now Survival Hunter, it's not even a joke. Like, look at Warcraft logs; they destroy Mythic Nighthold. So that's the whole. We can kind of tell because we talked. I mean, at least Dreams and I talked back in beta. And there was beta testing, and they beta tested Nighthold like a year ago. We're playing these fights that were made well over a year ago, right? And you can feel that in some of the way that the mechanics are almost feels like they changed and just tacked on extra stuff for range to worry about, and then melee just sit there and cleave on the boss.
Yep. Well, that's how I feel like all of these fights have been made. It used to be like, you know, the range overlords where you'd have like 3 melees in the fight because melee was just a pain in the butt to have in the raid.
Yeah.
And like afterwards you now it's like, well, all these guilds like just don't want melee and everyone's complaining about it, so let's make them a little bit melee friendly, and they just went too hard on the making it melee friendly.
Yeah.
So now you have like guilds having, it's like, we need 6 range to cover range mechanics on this fight, so let's bring 6 range and everyone else melee, you know? And it I don't know, the middle ground is hard to find because top guilds will always just abuse everything they can about the strat, and then it just trickles down the ladder and everyone just copies what they do.
No, it definitely is the thing. Either of you have any particular gripes with the Nighthold overall and just the melee side of things, or the lack of it?
I mean, I'm not gonna say that I dislike not having to do mechanics, but
Right.
Right.
like I've had fun so far. I think my only gripes in Nighthold is really like as a boss, I just didn't like botanists because it's just like really boring to just sit there as like the easiest. It's like really easy first two phases, and then you do the third phase, and it's like a snooze fest boss. I think that was my only like big gripe with Nighthold.
Yeah, pretty much the same here. Like there's so many so many. I guess it's the opposite. There's like almost no melee mechanic, and since you have so many melees in the raid, even if there is melee mechanics, you're unlikely to get them. So most of the time you just sit on the boss and just do your rotation, and you don't do anything.
Yeah.
And when you get to fights like Goldan or Star Augur that are like long fights, you just start sleeping on your keyboard at some point, and it's just bad.
Yeah, there was a blue post about that going forward with Tomb of Sargeras. And I haven't done any PTR testing for Tomb. Have either of you dabbled in the Tomb testing?
I just watch streams. That's
Yeah, we haven't done any testings as a guild. I've just been watching the streams of guilds do it.
Right. Yeah, the hard melee mechanic is staying awake, says chat. Yeah. I mean, but it hasn't, it's always sort of been like this in sort of way. I mean, I think back to encounters in MOP or in Warlords where I would wait 100 pulls for the ranged and healers to not die, and I'm just doing my thing, just whacking away at the boss's ankles or whatever. But they have, I can't remember if I can find the blue post. Maybe one of my mods can find it. It's from a number of months ago, I think, sometime in January, where they talked about this hierarchy we're talking about now, and that it's not going to be the same in Tomb, but we'll see, I guess. Because sometimes when they make a melee mechanic, it can be a thing like on Spellblade, where you get a debuff and you run out. You know, you place your fire ad, and that's not bad. But some melee mechanics can like ruin encounters. So there's a very soft touch there, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, a good example.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
A good example, I think, is like Spellblade. Like if a melee gets Mark of Frost, you're kind of screwed, and you kind of wipe. So like that's actually just a perfect example.
Yeah, and a good example of a melee mechanic would be like Grand Conjunction on Star Augur.
Yeah,
it's like it gives something for melee to do, or you can't just like all stack up on the boss's butt.
Right.
And just wait there for 8 minutes until you kill the boss. So you have to figure out like everyone has like their position, and you got to move around accordingly. That's of course they broke the add-on now, but when your add-on doesn't draw lines on your screen on who to go match with, like it kind of changed things a bit.
We'll have to wait and see. I'm skeptical because they're raid testing Tomb now. We're not going to get Tomb for many more months to come, I imagine, but I wonder, they've learned so much in the 6 months of the game being out that them now designing the new encounters, I'm sure they're hopefully not going to make the same mistakes of Nighthold, and it's just bring 4 or 5 ranged plus 2 healers that count as ranged to equal this magic number 7 that do mechanics, and then you just bring melee and melee healers that don't count for ranged mechanics and just title bosses. Yeah.
Yeah, or at least not for every boss in the encounter.
Right.
As long as there's a balance somewhere where you're not punished for having a range heavy roster or whatever. Yeah.
I mean, you went from Alisan to Goldan. You get rewarded for range to being punished.
Yeah.
That was the quick swap.
So I guess in the 6 months we've been in Legion so far, to bring it back over to Havoc, how is Havoc shaping up in the expansion so far? It's been a bit of a rocky road, because a few weeks into the expansion, they were like, nerf, trait nerfed, artifact part nerfed, like just to the ground. A lot of things just got cut down heavily. So, Kib, since you've been tracking that and writing guides for it and working through all that kind of stuff, how has that path been from so far, and how, like, the strengths and weaknesses of Havoc? I mean, if you had to, like, sprinkle some tidbits for the community on there that you've found along the way, how's it shaped up so far?
Well, since the beginning, one of Havoc's strength has always been like priority target damage and quick burst AoE, which is basically like the best thing you can ask for as a toolkit for raiding, since that's where the important parts of the fights are always. So you're always going to be desirable for that, regardless of if you're like the best DPS in the game or the worst DPS in the game. Like, your toolkit is built around being good at what kills bosses. So that's always like basically your ace in the hole. You'll never be bad basically for that. But then, like you said, the changes with 715 and the little nerfs at the beginning, they altered the playstyle a bit. But I mean, there's memes about this all the time. But like 2-button class, so like spam Chaos Strike all the time, and that's basically what it comes down to. You just change from the night hold and TOE to like using Bloodlet with momentum to just using Blade Dance. But at the same time, they do the same thing basically. They both like cleave your single target damage, and they both do good stuff for raids. So there's not really a drawback, I guess. The drawback would be probably sustained AoE, but we can spec for that, so it's not really a problem.
Yeah, I think we'll go into, of course, talents later on, though, but the sustain, I mean, there are many classes in the game that are very more adept to not lose out for sustain, because the sustained AoE build for Havoc, you sort of lose a lot of your priority damage in relationship to other classes that don't have to do much.
Yes.
So, yeah. That's because, I mean, even going back to like the design board that I remember Blizzard talking about, that Havoc is very cooldown centric, especially the new build. I mean, you have lots of cooldowns, and almost all of them are AoE cooldowns. Not many classes get that. I mean, I have one cooldown for enhancement. It does both single target and AoE as one button, right? But as Havoc, you have multiple different ones that are all different situations, or still AoE or not, but
right.
But yeah, I wrote down here, so yeah, the rebound with the new legendaries. The ring nerf, of course, comes up in chat. The secondary stat scaling fixes came through with 715, which I would hope that was a good thing, because unless you guys miss versatility stacking.
Not really.
Wasn't a fan of that.
So I guess, I don't know, Dreams, what do you think the best parts or worst parts of 7.1.5? So I put down here, of course, yeah, RIP Demon Speed. Oh.
Yeah, the Demon Speed nerf was definitely big, or change, I guess, to make it movement speed instead of giving 2 charges of blur, or not blur, foul rush. But I think with 715, like the Bloodlet spec with momentum, like you were pretty good single target and AoE at the same time. Now you kind of have to pick. You can go Nemesis and go really in on the boss, or like in dungeons and 5 minutes, just go the demonic build and be really, really strong at AoE, but while also having your single target suffer a bit. But I think overall, like, we're in a really good spot right now, because you have your dungeon spec, and then as well as a really good spec for bosses and single target and raids.
Okay. Anything like stick out that came out of 715 that you followed, that was like the best part of it? Because I just sort of like went into Discord and looked at what you guys pinned, and I was like, okay, so move this talent here and take Fellblade. All right.
For me, I think my favorite change was the Blind Fury change, where you regen Fury when you're casting it, which allows you, if you have the Helm in dungeons, to basically like spam cast I-Beam, which obviously makes your AoE DPS insane. So yeah, I think that's probably my favorite change.
What about you, Kib? Was something that stuck out to you as like the best part of 715? Because Havoc is still, the reason why I bring this up is that you're in the same category of like when DKs came out, and then Cataclysm hit, and then Monks came out, and then Warlords hit, and all these big changes, but they've done a lot of changes to you guys and moved talents around just in 0.5 patch, so yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's getting better, I guess, with flexibility, because I mean, no one really is a fan of having this talent and you never touch it for the next like 8 months until the patch hits, and then things change. So now at least we have 2 builds, because we have like the demonic, the meme beam or whatever, and then the raid build that's more single target oriented. We still have cooldowns to do what the build is not like specialized into, to still be relevant in all situations. But to come back to like the best part of 715, I think, like Dreams said, it's probably the rebirth of the demonic build, because that's basically been the staples in beta, and I think a lot of people really enjoyed that build, with like constantly weaving in metamorphosis and momentum and all that stuff, which is a really Yeah, I don't know. It makes the spec more dynamic and less like like a rogue or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that drew a lot of people to Demon Hunter in the first place, and it's great to see it come back.
Was the only change to demonic, because I'm going to bring it up on stream real quick here, because now it reads that I-Beam causes you to enter demon form for 8 seconds after it finishes dealing damage. So,
Yeah.
because what was it before? Because it was awful.
Six
4
or
or
five
6. Yeah.
Yeah, something low.
Yeah.
It wasn't enough to get 2 death sweeps in, I think.
It was
Yeah.
just too short. That was the
Yeah,
Right.
it was too short. But when the patch initially hit, demonic was working so that every I-beam you did in meta kept extending it.
Oh.
So it was pretty broken. So now all you can do is you can I-beam before, then you meta, and then you I-beam during, and you have like a 50-second meta. And that's like the highest you can get with that spec now. But
Yeah.
before you could get like 2-minute metas in like Moss Souls first pull. Like you kill the boss and then go downstairs with the 2-minute meta, and it was obviously insane.
I could imagine
the
that would be a little weird.
Biggest change was the Blind Fury change that made the demonic build work again. Because it ensures that you're going to be able to spam every demonic window, because you're not losing half of your resource bar just to proc the
Right.
talent. So now you proc the talent and you're full, you're ready to go, So it helps a lot.
I-Beam generates 35 fury every second, and its duration is increased by 50%. So you get 1 extra second, and it generates an entire bar, essentially.
Yep.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it generates 110 fury, 115? 110.
Yep.
So, it was a lot. So you just immediately go in there and go to town. Of course, we'll jump into talents more later. This is sort of an open-ended topic as I look at the notes, and there's a lot of just discussionary things here, but I guess this is something that has sort of plagued Havoc for a while, and even other classes like mine included right now. Enhancement Shamans right now are apparently, and I reported this, and we'll see if it gets fixed. It's really obnoxious, these things that happen that people figure out, but you can wear the Uncertain Reminder legendary helmet that extends the duration of Bloodlust heroism, etc. And then you pop hero like 2 or 3 seconds before the pull, but then you swap legendaries, but you keep the extended duration. And then you go into the encounter with hero on the pull with 3 legendary effects, essentially. Havoc had a lot of mastery snapshotting, the whole Chaos Blade gear set swap macro and things. That was happening for a while. Even though your burst is still ridiculous again now as it is. But is there any other major bugs or issues or tomfoolery that's still sort of happening with Havoc? Or
the thing I just said about demonic, about getting 50-second meta, probably isn't like the most well-known thing. So if you don't know how to do it, you just go into the fight, you I-beam once, and then you'll meta after your first I-beam cast, and then during that meta you can just I-beam whenever, and it will add another is it 8 seconds to the meta? Yeah. So like there's like that's like a little thing that you can do, but obviously the mastery snapshotting is just completely dead. So but you can still run around with that and just run super fast, which is nice.
It's nice for running old instances, but I mean now you just replace the mastery gear snapshotting with like you just use the tank trinket from Karazhan instead and just go ham with that.
Yeah, don't bring that up yet. We're not there yet. Let's slow our roll a little bit on that one. But so just to reiterate on that one then too. So you said that you can, so when you I-beam, which procs demonic, you then meta your actual meta cooldown, and so then you I-beam again.
Yeah, then you can I-beam again, and then you have your maximum duration meta you can if you're demonic.
So yeah, basically what happens is you I-beam, so you get 8-second meta from demonic. Then you pop meta, so you go to 38 seconds, and then you I-beam again, so you get another 8 seconds.
And then by the time that meta breaks, I-beam should be off cooldown based on just time and the amount of demonic appetites you've gotten. So, so it's generally like in dungeons, you'll have like a nice 1 minute of metamorphosis on a boss if you go in with everything and you have a not terrible pull and you have ring.
Yeah, and in Maw of Souls, you can pre-meta the dungeon beginning as well to get an extra, like, 30 seconds. because once the dungeon starts, the counter starts, your cooldowns gets reset, right? So you can do a 5-second countdown before putting the key in, and you meta at 1. So you get 29 seconds of meta right there. Then you do the first pull, and you do the whole meta shenanigans we talked about, and you can add all of that time up. So you can basically have meta in like Malso from like the start of the instance all the way to the second boss and be in meta the whole time.
Well, I've never seen or experienced that. I don't think I've changed my build normally. Granted, I don't do a lot of Mythic Plus stuff on my Demon Hunter because I have to focus on my Shaman, but that sounds ridiculous and fun.
It's very fun because while you're doing that, you have 100% leech, so you can just like walk into mobs.
Yeah,
side and you don't die. It's a great time.
Yeah, you just ignore mechanics again, even though But is that the main one? Like, if a tomfoolery, is there anything else that sticks out? I think they've locked down a lot. I guess I could bring up that there's really no. Is there still Fel Rush canceling? Is that still a thing?
Yeah, that's still a thing.
It's not really a big deal anymore, but
I mean, you can do it if you want. Like, I personally do it on like 2 bosses if they're tiny hitboxes, and I'll lose like 2 autos. But I know Kib doesn't do it.
No, I don't. I got used to not using it and just weave my way around the boss accordingly between attack swings. You just stand at the max range of the boss. After you swing, you just sidestep away from the boss and Fel Rush back in. So by the time your next melee is queued up, you're back in melee and you don't lose anything much. Right. It's more of a micromanagement thing, but the only difference, like Dream said, is like 1 or 2 melee attacks. So it's not that big of a deal either.
Okay. And the prevalence of Fel Mastery and Momentum is definitely a reason why it's not a huge deal much anymore, because you're not worrying about that 4-second window as much as we used to be for the first 4 months of the expansion. So, and all of beta, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't need to use Fel Rush like you used to. You can use it for damage. So you can, if I had spawn, you just use both charges.
Yeah.
For damage, or if you need to use them for movement, you can do that as well. It doesn't like hurt you. Whereas before, if you were saving Fel Rushes for movement, I'd say like, I mean, Kroos is a bad example, but say you can have VR up and you needed a Fel Rush, that would be like substantial DPS loss. Whereas now, you lose like 400k damage for the Fel Rush, which is fine.
Right. Yeah, it's nowhere near as egregious as it used to be. But is there anything else that you guys can think of that comes out of that weird area, or some lesser known
the other thing is like
effects, or
the if you death sweep when meta's less than a second, you get like an extra global in meta.
Yeah,
that's a small thing. So with demonic, it's nice. So you have like an extra global in every time. So you just basically I think is it the 3rd death sweep, Kid? Right, the 3rd one. You do it like 0.5 seconds, and then it will extend meta for a global because like the animation where your character's like zooming around. I don't know. Blade dancing, I guess, but and then you just get another annihilate in or whatever.
Yeah, and to go from that, you can squeeze an extra annihilate into your outside of meta timer because of the death sweep animation. You just gotta spam it, but it's not hard to do at all. You just weave in your last death sweep from meta in the last like under 1 second from your meta cooldown.
Right.
Yeah.
And since the animation is gonna carry over, if you just spam annihilation, your GCD is going to be able to be used before the animation's over, so you can squeeze in an extra annihilate.
Yeah, that's what I was going to just say, is that the animation for Blade Dance or Death Sweep itself, I think, is basically locked at the 1.5 second window. It's tied to the regular GCD.
Right.
So yeah, your global's going to be lower because of the hasted meta. Interesting. I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, and there's just one more bug thing that's never been fixed as well, that if you I-beam and Inner Demon procs, you lose your I-beam and you cry a little bit inside.
Is that why? I thought...
Yes.
That just happened to me like literally yesterday. And I thought I had like... And it was during Hero and Meta, so I had a ton of haste. And I was like, okay, maybe it just like zapped out of my face that quickly. But no, it's because the stupid demon jumps out of me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because the Inner Demon is coded as a cast, so it's like you cast Inner Demons, and since you cast Inner Demon, it cancels your channel. And obviously, if you're under a lot of haste effect, Inner Demon proc rate is like a haste calculation. It's a haste. It's a number by haste or ppm.
Sure.
So if you have a lot of haste, you're most likely to get an inner demon proc, and then the whole like feels bad man happens.
Oh, that sucks. I didn't know what that was exactly. Okay, well, that's just RNG. You can't really help that.
No, it's really unfortunate. It's been reported back in beta, and it never got fixed. The same way that the mastery snapshotting got reported in beta
Right.
and got fixed like 2 months ago when it became like well known by everyone.
Mhm.
But before it was like a tiny things that a couple people kept to themselves. But
Like, not negative in chat brings up, we still have that really neat Fell Rush DC bug.
Yeah, that one's pretty bad.
yeah, that's great. And,
Well,
on Botanist, it's amazing.
It's not really a bug, though. It's a hard-coded fix to try to stop people from animation canceling.
As
Yeah.
someone that animation cancels, I can say that I've DC'd 0 times animation canceling and like at least 15 times just straight fell rushing in the past month.
Just not even
Like they
trying.
did absolutely nothing to fix it. They just screwed up regular foul rush, which is
Oh,
just
no.
annoying. So like
Yeah.
sometimes even if I don't have to animation cancel, I'll just do it because I don't want to DC because I know I won't DC with it. As stupid as it is, but
Yeah, I remember back in
They-
beta
yeah,
when
that first day when you sent that GIF.
Yeah, back in beta, I had a talk with Blizzard people about animation canceling, gave them all my macros and all the shenanigans that people were doing, and the next build people started DCing with Fell Rush. So I feel a bit responsible for that, but I mean, you got to do what you got to do. I'd rather have a class that works fine than a class that's broken. That's
Of
gonna
course.
get nerfed because of it.
Oh, of course.
It's really unfortunate. I lost the chosen title twice to DCing
Oh.
because of Fell Rush in the second phase.
There's
But it's
also
fine. I got it afterwards.
there's also the weird Z-axis interaction with Fell Rush sometimes, where you clip that stone and you just fly like a rocket ship across the terrain.
Mhm.
Because
Yes.
it just like launches you and you just break the server for like a half a second. That's hilarious though. Those don't really do much. Well, unless you're doing Cenarius Mythic and you are off the edge.
Yep,
Yep.
that was
'Cause
funny.
that happens.
That happened.
Yeah, that has to do with the
scenario
model.
splits the first week. That was pretty funny.
Yep.
I just fell from the middle right into the Xavius pool. Just instantly died.
Yep.
Great game.
What about Fellblade on Crosis?
Don't talk about
breaks?
Crosis. No, stop.
Oh.
Dude, that was awful. Dude, I hated that.
So they used to, well, they fixed Fellblades.
They fixed it.
Yeah, they
Like,
fixed it, but
yeah.
like the first day I fall rushed, or not fall rushed, fell bladed,
Fellbladed.
and I was like right on the edge, and then my character just slowly fell off, and I didn't move.
Yeah.
And Negative just would link it everywhere in DH Discord. I'm
Yep.
sure he's gonna link it here.
Yep.
But yeah,
Mhm.
I'm glad they fixed Crosis Fellblade. Sometimes Fellblade is still kind of like weird. Like on Elisent, I had a few weird like Fellblades that moved me when they shouldn't have. But yeah.
It's even like I almost died to it last night doing the Mythic Nighthold ult run on Trilliax on the the imprint and the phase 2 or whatever you want to call it, and I'll Fellblade to the imprint, but it'll take me like all the way into his hitbox and then right in front of the laser. So yeah, otherwise you just do it and you just attack in melee range with him and you don't actually move. So I don't know why sometimes it has to pull your character and readjust if you're like a little bit outside of the hitbox, but it's the same crap. Oh, there's the clip. Nice.
Like this.
It's the same.
Yeah, it depends where the clip on the boss's hitbox is.
Sure.
Basically, if it's in the middle of the hitbox, sometimes it's gonna move you weird. Sometimes the clip is on the edge of the hitbox.
Mhm.
It depends on the model, but it's not really an issue. Really, it's more like when you start doing a boss for the first couple of times, you just get used to it, and afterwards you forget about it.
Right. Yeah. It's not too bad, but before I can't believe we're just chugging along here. Before we move into like the little mid-show commercial break, and then I want to get to it quicker because I want to go through the talents, legendaries, artifacts, tier, all the nitty-gritty stuff. So, do you have any specific resources that you can plug for a chat. And then, of course, you'll link me in Skype, and I'll drop them in the video description box on YouTube. So, like, specific things to check out for aspiring or returning Havoc Demon Hunters out there. What do you got?
I'll post the Demon Hunter class Discord, the Fellhammer, in your Twitch. If you go to the channel Havoc FAQ, there'll be a list to almost everything that you possibly want. And if you have any questions, me and Kib usually respond pretty quickly to Havoc questions, as well as anyone in the Discord that has the Todd in their name. They're a helpful person.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I was going to ask that too. Not every MVP or like moderator, admin of the Discord channels takes PMs. Do you, either of you, are okay with PMs, or you want people to just ask you? Like, which do you prefer?
Yeah. I don't want to speak for Kib, but I'm personally fine with PMs. I know some people just turn them off, but me and Kib, or at least me personally, I leave them on.
Yeah, okay. I'm generally fine with PMs. What happens most of the time is 99% of the time is going to be like go in the fact channel, because the answers
they'll just ask a question like, what is this? The bot didn't work, and then we'll say, well, here it is in the bot channel, or here it is in FAQ, and then
most
say, okay, that's it. There's very few times where people come in and they like have like very, like, I don't know, analytical questions, like in depth. It's usually just like, where's this? Like, where's this resource? I want to get a sim, and then we just link the sim, and that's pretty much it.
And just as a general statement, anyway, it's like I understand that some people might want a targeted answer or whatever, but personally, I think it's just better to go ask in the general channel, and anything like you can just ping myself or Dreams or whatever if you want, or answer. But if typing in the general channel will bring more discussion to your questions, and you can get more viewpoints and more answers this way. And usually you can kind of get a nice conversation going around your question, instead of just having like one guy's opinion on it or whatever.
Right.
I feel like that usually brings more to the table than just asking people directly.
There were two websites. I'm pulling them up right now. These were not prepped beforehand, so I wanted to see. I wanted to know if you guys are familiar, if they're still doing stuff. It looks like they're still doing stuff. There was the Warden's Vault and then Fell Rage. Are these still resources that are... Because I have them in the channel guide, because earlier in the expansion there were only the two websites that had popped up. Are these still things that are worth looking at, or are you not sure? They both look nice.
I know Vault of the Wardens, or
that one at least. Is that one that Tomek made?
It's the one Tomek made, and I'm mostly, I can almost be certain that it's up to date just from having him around the Discords and all the time.
Yeah.
Fell Rage, I think most people use that for the WeakAuras things, but I'm not really sure about the content of the website itself, because Dreams and I mostly just do everything through Discord, because that's where we can reach the most people quickly. We don't personally have like a fancy website or whatever for it.
Right.
But
that's fair. That's what I was just looking at to make sure, because those are in my favorited or friends category in the channel guide, and I've always wanted to make sure those are still, because they both look nice. They both have resources there, so if they're still looking good, then that's totally fine. I'll keep plugging them. But is there anything from the first half that you may have skipped over? Anything that you wanted to add before we move on?
No.
For strength weaknesses, we could talk about Netherwalk right now, or you want to do that later with the talents?
Probably talents.
Yeah, we can go through talents on that one for sure. Unless there's something specific you want to bring up about that as a side. Because the talent breakdowns and stuff that I want to go through are going to be more like short summaries, because a guide can list all those things. If you want to go over the shenanigans with Netherwalk,
Netherwalk is, it's generally like really OP on almost every fight. Good examples are like Star Augur and Croesus and Tichondrius, where you can use the immunity to like soak. Like on Tichondrius you can get Seeker Swarm, Croesus you can soak smashes if your tanks are either dead or just taking too much damage, and then on Starogger you can nether walk, like the fear, like the second fear that almost one shots everyone, and then generally just live, and like it just allows you to have so many more cooldowns because you have that and blur now. And we see a lot of people that don't use that talent when it's like it's really, really good for every situation, because you don't really need leech in a raid because it's kind of hard for a DH to out throughput healers, especially like generally when you're metaing is during lust, so there's not much healing that needs to be done. So the people that take soul rending in raids it's not ideal.
Right. I mean, whenever that in the BTS setting up yesterday, that normally you would have, unless there's a mechanic that lasts a while, normally things you'd have the nether walk and then a cancel aura like macro for it, right? So you would just basically snap into it, immune the whatever, and then snap out because you can't attack during it. So
exactly, yeah, it's really broken for that.
It's really strong. I mean, it's essentially bubble and cloak rolled in together. Old bubble, because you can't attack during old bubble, but yeah.
Yeah, sadly it doesn't remove debuffs like cloak does, but
sure.
It's as close as it gets. As close as it gets.
What Dreams? It'll do what?
I said if it removed debuffs, it would be beyond broken.
Oh, for sure. No, that'd be silly. I mean, the fact that you can also like lead a blur into another walk or vice versa is also incredibly powerful too. So
yeah, that's why it's really good when you soak things, where you'll pick them up with like another walk and immune for a few seconds, then you blur, and then you'll live through it.
Right.
Like on Tichondrius, when you get the Secret Swarm, you have like the 3 stacks of carrying play or 4 whenever you soak, and then whenever it gets bad, you still have blur. So it's really nice.
Yep.
It allows you to like do a lot more mechanics as a melee, even though there aren't that many to do.
Right.
And then for the shenanigans, you got darkness as well. That's a lot of people forget to use it, sadly. A lot of raid leaders forget about it, but it's like one of the most broken cooldowns in the game. Don't forget about darkness.
Yeah, darkness is definitely the type of thing where it can just, you can get like the Jesus RNG and win. Like, for instance, like Serenity's Star Augur. Didn't you say it was like 1 in 8 million, Kib?
Yeah, 1 in 8 million RNG on darkness, get the kill.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
So
pure skill. Pure skill.
Right there. Bring Demon Hunters.
Yeah. And there was on the Resto Shaman show we just had a few weeks ago, we talk about how Spirit Link Totem, SLT, is real good by itself, but if you fill the SLT with a darkness can make you avoid the damage transference dot.
Yeah.
So it just almost quadruples the potency of the SLT because so much of the damage that is mitigated then just disappears.
Yeah, I remember people did that on Il'gynoth when they would like rip all the bloods and then link with like 8 of the debuffs and just live because, well, darkness.
Yeah, and it does. It is a additive bonus if you stack them. It's not a multiplicative one, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, you don't get 40% for. You basically get 20% to not to like absorb the damage, and then you get another 20% afterwards. It doesn't stack really. You just get 2 rolls basically.
2 rolls. Yeah, okay. That's fine. It's still silly. It's still really good. So, well, that's fair. That's all good little stuff like that. So, all right. I think it's time. I'm going to plug some things and do some shout outs real quick here, and then we will come back and do the nitty gritty discussion about Havoc. So, again, I have to thank the assistant producers of the show that are supporting the show and the stream, everything in between on Patreon. So, Truffles, Ludovicus, Tazelin, R4, and Dalthier. Thank you very much for your support. And if you missed the beginning of the show, then I will have to double check here and double post it. But there is, if you want to follow along, it is a Patreon unlock to actually have the show notes to follow along with. And then there are also behind the scenes podcasts that are sort of like the unscripted setup for the show, or other little things come up and they're able to be, just put in your ear holes that aren't things that come up on the show. If you want to go check those out, those are on the Patreon page. And this just launched the other day. on the official Final Boss TV apparel store. So I do those commemorative World First shirts, right? So we've got the 2 down here for Method, and we have now the 2 for Exorcist. So the new Mythic Gul'dan Demon Within design is out. If you would like to support the show in a more physical manner, you can do front and back pick sweatshirts. There's all different cuts of shirts for both men and women, a whole bunch of different colors. And the design is that it's will the back print load? Maybe not. The design is that it actually is a very wide design. So it has the Illidan Demon Within background, and then of course the really awesome Gul'dan skull exploding, which is pretty great. We wanted to make a different design this time that looked a little bit more just appealing to sort of that fantasy genre instead of being tied directly to the characters or the boss itself. So those are available right now. Link is down below the stream. And then again, of course, if you haven't checked out the channel guide as well, we plugged the Fellhammer earlier, but all the other class Discords are all able to be linked in the channel guide. You can even join the Final Boss TV Discord. If you just click on my face. The best way to help submit questions for upcoming shows is done in the general chat. I always ping the general chat on the Friday or Saturday before a live show. So if you have questions for the show, the Ask a Boss email, the old system I used to use, is gone. It's archaic. We've moved it away. So if you want to ask about things for upcoming shows, like we have Shadow Priest coming up soon, and then Holy and Discipline Priest, and then Vengeance Demon Hunter, etc., etc. Druid History Month is on the way soon, so if you have questions for Druids, then you can join the Final Boss TV Discord as well as any other ones, and then you, of course, can ask me about it there, too. But that is about it, other than, of course, we're going to look at this when I talk about this in a moment, but the Icy Veins guide for Havoc is very good. So if you want something that has a ton of information, and I'll be thumbing through that in a minute here in the next section, then you go check out the Icy Veins guide for Havoc. But that's it for me. And are you guys ready to get into the nitty-gritty of Havoc Demon Hunters? Ready? Are you ready? You good?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. So let's get a little like the paperwork out of the way, I suppose. So the new secondary standard for Havoc, what is the secondary stat prioritization? How has it changed after 7.1.5? What are your stat priorities for secondaries looking like?
Well, the initial stat priorities is like crit, mastery, haste first, but as you and most other people know, as you get more of one stat, the value of others become higher. So you want a relatively high amount of crit and mastery, where the other two are kind of low. What me and Kib usually do is after we get a piece, we just sim our characters to figure out like the pawn string, so that way we know what the value of mastery and crit is, so we can fix our gems and stuff. But for me personally, it's just always crit and mastery are number 1 and number 2. It just varies by usually like 0.5 for the stat weight.
For Havoc, I thought it's for like Enhancement Shaman, to put this in perspective, like we're mastery haste, and then we're sort of more haste mastery now. But then crit and verse are like really bad. They have like a huge fall off. But for Havoc, it's kind of just like they're all pretty good, right? If I understand that correctly, they're all like there's no huge variance there.
All the stats have their uses, I guess. There's not really a dead stat per se, so that's good to some extent. But crit and mastery are really what you want, and by default, you just want as little as the other two as possible, because crit and mastery just they both keep getting better the more gear you have,
right? And
the more gear you have, the stat gets better, and it just cycles forever like that, and they just keep pulling more and more and more ahead, even to a point where like I'm at a point in my gear where agility is my worst stat. Like everything's better than agility, so I just don't care about anything anymore. But the crit and mastery are just king stats, and you still want some degree of haste, but not enough for it to matter.
Yeah.
So Having
fair.
0 haste is bad, but you don't want to invest into haste.
Sure.
And versus
Alright.
just
Yeah, no, Verse took a huge dive in 715 for sure. It just fell off the wagon. But which is fine because it should have always been the way it is now at launch, but they had to get that fixed in the whole big secondary stat revamp. And then there is your tier 19 set bonuses that we're currently sitting on right now. Real quick, off the top of the head dome piece, what is the hierarchy of pieces to wear of your tier 19 Kib? Like, what pieces do you want to wear? What pieces should you steer clear of? Unless you have, legendaries that conflict, of course. But
in a perfect scenario, you want helm, cloak, chest, pants, because they're the best itemized piece, period.
okay,
And that leaves you room to use like the Jason's 2-piece from Court of Star Archway, which is glove boots if you have them. At a high enough eye level, it leaves you room for legendary shoulders if you want to use them. But it also enables you to use the better itemized off pieces from the raid. All the shoulders and the gloves from the raid are crit mastery, which are your best stat. So it basically you want, like I said, helm, cloak, chest, pants. They all have either crit or mastery or both, and the offset of your best stat. So just the best of both worlds.
okay, that sounds good. I was gonna pull up. I see that link. I needed the different one. Let me grab this real quick because I wanted to talk about. Well, I can bring it up on screen first off. So tier 20 on the horizon. If you haven't seen the 3D models of the tier 20 sets, they are all available on MMO Champion. So I'll pop this up on screen real quick here. What race do you play, Dreams? I'm gonna make your Demon Hunter on screen real quick here.
I'm a female blood elf demon hunter.
I bet you are, like everyone else in the world.
Of course.
So this is the.
Why wouldn't you above silence?
I mean, yeah, you're not wrong. This is the mythic set for tier 20 right there. And I think the one thing I wanted to. Well, that's weird. The one thing I wanted to make sure you notice here is that you get like demon fingernails, which you can't really tell. There we go, on her other hand. And then you get like toenails too. They're part of the pants and the gloves, which is ridiculous. They're not on the other sets. If you go to the normal or heroic sets, they're not there. But what do you guys think of your tier 20? Since all these new armor sets now are being crafted from you going forward, since there's no armor sets before Legion. What do you guys think? Dreams, what do you think of the new tier 20 armor set coming out?
I mean, some of the pieces look cool. I think we talked about this last night. The mythic helm doesn't look the best.
It's a little stupid.
Well, I think the effects that you get with the mythic pieces, like you said, the claws, it's really cool. Like the shoulders look really good. I'm not super big on transmog myself, but they definitely, it looks like they put a lot of time into the art for this tier.
I love the helm. You don't like the helm? Come on.
It looks like you have like a weird blade coming out of it. Like what, you can headbutt someone?
No, you go male blood elf and you use the helm for maximum memes.
No, more Uthfodum, dude. Just stop.
Dude, I'm renaming Horn Fodum when I get the helm next year.
Because you're gonna have the model viewer here at MMO Champion doesn't have the Demon Hunter customization, so it doesn't show tattoos and whatnot. But imagine the crazy horns and blood elf ears and fantastic Sephiroth hair and the axe blade head. Yeah,
amazing.
And the horns on your shoulders.
And then you can just macro slash yell Rhino Smash in your Fell Rush, and you just go ham with the helm for the maximum fantasy value.
Is it the maximum fantasy value?
I don't think you can beat that.
Hey, maybe. But then the real thing here, I'm going to bring this up now, is there's an ad on the page. Can I get rid of it? There we go. No, I don't know. Whatever. All right, well, it's tax season, so there's whatever, it's not a big deal. The Demon Bane armor, which is the tier 20. There are 2 new set bonuses that are currently working on. Let's see. These are loaded incorrectly. These are the ones we currently have right now. Currently, we have the Generation and Fury abilities and the Chaos Strike chance. They're all listed here. So the new one is Blade Dance will refund 40 Fury when it hits an enemy. And that Blade Dance's critical strike chance is increased by 50%. So how are those for set bonuses?
I think realistically it's not like the most broken thing, but it's going to make the class feel a lot better because the extra generation you get for Blade Dance is just another button you have to hit, and I think it will make it like the ring discrepancy not as big, where the difference between people with ring and not ring won't be as bad with that with the tier 20 2-piece 4-piece. But I think it's shifting the class more into a way where it's not just lol chaos strike lol don't do anything one button class lol.
Right.
They're like trying to like shift away from that, and they're kind of making it so like, all right, we like the first blood build, we like how it plays. Let's just make you keep hitting Blade Dance off cooldown pretty much. It's another button to hit. Brings more like diversity to the class, so it's good.
But then technically, like, I mean, Chad is catching up to, refunds more than it costs. First Blood makes Blade Dance cost 15, if my math is correct. So it makes it a builder. But then if you don't even take First Blood for whatever reason, if Chaos Cleave or Bloodlet comes back into the fold, it would still give you 5 and or make it free, essentially.
Yeah.
Right. Which is great, because like, depending on how balance turns out, obviously it might give us, more tools to play around with because of how artifact traits are working, like mainly Balance Blade and the new Blade Dance trait that they're adding.
Right.
So even without First Blood, it might be a DPS increase to use Blade Dance on pure single target or at 2 targets or at whatever, like Matt will tell.
Sure.
But it opens up some opportunities to have interesting talent choices for the future, which is always a good thing, I think.
Yeah, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but yeah, that's the one thing that ties into this too. If these go live, which again, this is sort of a future-proofing little subsection here, one of the new traits you have on the Twin Blades in 7.2, one of the new talents, the new 1 of 1, is your Blade Dancer's Grace, which increases the critical strike damage of Blade Dance by 20%. So that would make the flat, and of course, your one you have now, which is Balanced Blades. But I guess the 2 questions I have on that one, which I don't know if you guys know this yet, does that critical strike damage apply to the actual effect of First Blood, or just the hits of Blade Dance itself?
Every hit, every strike of Blade Dance, it hits 4 times, and all 4 hits have the 120 modifier on crit, basically.
Oh, wow, okay. And then same thing with First Blood, it would give more crit chance and damage to the First Blood hit, or is that a separate?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. It goes into everything.
Wow.
Currently, at least, but
right, currently. So that's actually pretty powerful if that goes.
Yeah.
That definitely is.
It pulls up some pretty nasty 7 figures number when you.
Oh. Like overall for the whole spell effect?
No, just for the First Blood hit.
Oh, okay. Well, geez. All right. Dang, that's crazy. So we'll see. We'll see how that works out. It sounds like it's a fine tier 20 bonus to graduate from, because you still get a Fury bonus, right? Because right now you have the flat Fury generation bonus. So it seems like there's a good graduation there. Whereas hopefully, speaking for myself, the enhancement one is currently a DPS loss. So our 2-piece is just 5% crit. We're not even a crit-based class. It's like the lamest 2-piece bonus since like Burning Crusade. It's so bad. It's just plus 5% crit. That's it.
Fantasy will fix it.
Yeah, the fantasy will... Shut up. So... That sounds fine. How about this is a topic that Kib can't wait to talk about. All right. Before we get into legendaries and trinkets and talent breakdowns, we have to talk about this, chat. All right, pull up a chair, get your hot cocoa and your pepes. I want to break down the whole 2-minute meta that is happening right now with the combination of the Delusions of Grandeur legendary shoulders, the Convergence of Fates trinket from Elisand, and the relic stacking. And I don't know, I'm just gonna let Kib go for it first. My notes here, is it that serious? Do you need all of that to set it up? How #worth is it overall? Like, how does this work out right now?
Yeah, well, it's great when you talk about it. It sounds great. It looks great on paper because, stack all cooldowns together every time they're up. Like, it feels amazing, man. And all that, all the memes are coming with it. But at the same time, the biggest issue that there is with this build is that you have to give up a lot to make it work, which in turn devalues everything you're getting from it. And it gets to a point where you're giving away so much that you get basically nothing out of it. Even though it feels good and everything, it's not actually super effective in like when it comes down to it. And that's basically the biggest problem, because you're giving away like a perfectly itemized item like slot in your shoulders from the raid. You're giving up like a trinket slot for something it basically does nothing. Because just convergence alone is very, very weak for demon hunters. We have like the longest cooldown in a game and the worst proc on convergence from all the classes, which question mark, I could just
Yeah.
it's just dumb. And then again you get to the relic part where we have relics that increases the damage of, or like best ability that does the most damage that you use like more than half of your total cast in the fight, to something that virtually does nothing but just lines up your cooldown. So when you put all of that in the same melting pot, like all the gains and all the loss from it, it basically balances it out, where it turns out to be slightly better than just having like a legendary trinket, a legendary belt, a Paridas, for example, that are like just better overall. But at the same time, when you can line up your meta with your cooldowns with a fight mechanic, like let's say on Tichondrius, for example, because that's probably the best one we have, if you can get a 230 meta, which is just basically what you need for Tichondrius, because every 2-minute 30 you're getting out of the bat phase and you get the damage buff, then it's really amazing, because you just have all your cooldowns, all your meta, all everything with the damage buff from the fight. So in these situations, it's amazing. But otherwise, you just have to give up so much to make it work that it's not really worth it. But at the same time, when I say you have to give up so much, it's comparing it with other legendaries that you might not have.
Right.
So most of the time, it's going to be your best option to go for it if you have it. But like ideally, in a perfect world where you have all the legendaries and everything, you're not going to use it often enough.
So a few follow-ups on that, just to make sure we're on the same page with this. And you guys have done the math and worked this out, Simcraft style or napkin math or whatever. The way the Delusions of Grandeur reads, the legendary shoulders, is the remaining cooldown of Metamorphosis is reduced by 1 second for every 30 Fury you spend. So how much Fury per minute is a Havoc Demon Hunter spending? So how many, how many seconds off do the shoulders really equate to? Because you guys have
the
worked...
shoulders alone are roughly 150-second meta cooldown with a mythic like item set.
Yeah,
without
the more gear you have and like more crit, obviously you can spend more fury then, so
Right.
the shoulders will be better. Whereas if you're like some 870 geared character and you get shoulders as your first legendary, it's probably gonna suck.
Because the thing that I'm, I guess, trying to look at here is that, and the counter I had to this is I have like one or two relics on my Demon Hunter for the meta reduction cooldown. And the fact that it now is forcibly desynced from Nemesis and Chaos Blades, like, just makes it not worth it. It's just bad. I want to replace those relics because I want to have a 4-minute cooldown. I don't have the shoulders, obviously. Because you want to have, you know, your opening burst, then you have your Nemesis and Chaos Blades in the 2-minute phase, then you have it 4 minutes again, you get it to light back up again. Because once you forcibly desync it, then you just wait on your meta cooldown. Because you're not going to you're not going to meta without Chaos Blades Nemesis or vice versa. It's just kind of like, it's...
Yeah, the only thing you can do at that point is just desync your cooldowns from like using them all at the same time, just to make sure that they're all up in the window that you're going to be in. But it's not even worth at that point, because like you can use your meta if your Chaos Blade comes back up in like, you know, 18 seconds.
Sure.
Because you'll clip the last 12 seconds in, and sometimes that's going to open up the opportunity to have like an extra, like, you know, like 15 seconds of meta just as the boss is going to die. But that's so like, I mean, everyone knows like, oh, the first week you're going to kill the boss in like 4 minutes 12 seconds, and the next week you're going to kill it in 4 minutes 6 seconds, and there you just lost, like, you know, you just lost 6 seconds on your meta at the end of the fight or whatever. So it's like, can you really count on that to give a value to the shoulders or give a value to the relics? It's really hard to tell. So that's why it's called like the 2-minute build, because if it's not 2 minutes, it's really hard to give a real value to like individuals for it.
Sure.
But when you give it a 2-minute cooldown on it, you can more easily give it a value because you just sync it with everything all the time.
Yeah. But I guess that's the question then for those that do have this and are looking for this kind of build. And if you can line this up in a perfect world, are the shoulders enough? Oh, like an average like 900. I guess it's not average right now. I'm kind of being a little snobby, I suppose. Like an 890 geared Havoc gets the shoulders. Are the shoulders enough without relics or the trinket involved to line up on a 2-minute meta, or is it still not? Is that not enough cooldown reduction?
No, it's not enough. You need you need at least shoulders and the trinket and at least 1 relic to really make it work.
If you have like 2 relics and you're super geared, you can. It's gonna be really close. But like it'll be like 2 minutes 5 seconds, and it's probably worth doing because you can use 2 real trinkets. But the belt is still like really, really good on a lot of, just for damage purposes. Obviously, if it's like a long fight like Star Augur or Gul'dan, where I guess Gul'dan's different because the boss or the belt damage is good, but on Star Augur, belt damage is useless because 90% nothing's going on. So shoulders there, it's worth the extra 5 seconds and you get the extra trinket.
Okay. Yeah. But there's a lot of stuff going around about the shoulders and how good they are and stuff, and I feel like it's the way that the nuclear burst of Havoc works is that because you stack Chaos Blades on top of Nemesis, granted Nemesis lasts for well beyond that, but Chaos Blades, Nemesis, and Metamorphosis, like they need to basically they need to always happen at the same time to make them feel worth it. So essentially, unless you can make the 2-minute meta work, then it's just not good.
Yeah, it's better to just use it on fights where it actually lines up with another thing on top of it to make it even better. Like Tychondrius, for example, or like a fight like Gul'dan is great as well, because the fight is so long that you get a lot of opportunities to like slightly delay your cooldowns. And since you delay your cooldowns anyway, you can line it up with like a 230 meta, which is perfect on Gul'dan. But that's basically it, because the trinket is really trash for Havoc. It's just garbage. The trinket is just bad, and losing out a trinket. I mean, trinkets are a huge part of our DPS. So if you can get away without the trinket, it's perfect.
That's a good call that is brought up in chat for sure. Yeah, Negative brings up that 7.2 it'll be a little better because of the 4/4 traits. Yeah, I mean the WoW DB calculator doesn't have this updated yet, but you're gonna get one more point of Unleashed Demons, which is another 20 seconds off. So you're going to be forced in a way to desync on purpose.
Yeah,
Because
that's gonna be the last talent you get. Like that's gonna be the talent that you'll take when it's gonna cost you like 18 like quadrillion artifact power to get or whatever.
Yeah, you're
because
90 whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll get all your Paragon points before getting that. And I mean, unless you have the shoulders and you can make it work, but you're not going to use Convergence next year or anything like that, just from my level perspective alone.
Oh, interesting. I was going to type this out, but it's 2020 right now. Is the 4 of 4 only a 15-second reduction?
Yes.
Yeah.
It DRs.
It DRs. Ew.
Mm.
Ew. So, I mean, I guess there will be some shenanigans to figure out Unleashed Demons plus relics that reduce it. Granted, if you also aren't familiar, I'll go full cam for this to make sure we're on the same page. The random extra traits for relics is gone. It's not happening anymore. Yeah, thank the makers or whatever, whoever you pray to. Thank Glob. It's gone. It's not happening, which is great. It's great and terrible, but mostly it's great. That is no longer happening. So there's no more nonsense with that too. So okay. Yeah. Yeah, the bonus AP. Well, hey, the bonus AP incentivizes world questing over mythic plus grinding, and we need like 400 billion AP now, so don't. I'll take free AP. Why not? For garrison resources, what are they going to do? Or class order hall resources?
Yeah, well, you'll be farming AP for like 900 years anyway. So.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. Something like that. So, okay. Dreams, anything to add to the 2-minute meta before we move on? You good?
I think we've covered everything. It's just really situational, and don't just blindly think it's good. I think it's
right.
All.
Okay. So legendaries and the trinket lists now. This is sort of self-explanatory. I think a lot of the legendaries that are notable for Havoc, the Havoc Demon Hunter community knows, but you want to reiterate these like sort of a hierarchy, and I'll just start you off and lead you in here if Dreams wants to walk through these. There's a ring called Anger of the Half Giants. It's pretty good.
Yeah, that one's pretty good. For just damage wise, the belt's the second best. But if it's like a boss fight where you really don't need damage at the start and you want like execute damage, you would take Pride as because of the stats. It's just like a big stat stick really right now.
Yep.
Or Delusions or the shoulders. Most of the legendaries are kind of bad in raids. Like the chest really doesn't do anything. Safu's, unless you can proc, it's pretty bad. The boots, not ideal. Obviously the bracers are very bad, and the helm is essentially useless if there's never going to be another set of ads within the next like 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And since most sets of ads this tier are on like 45-second timers, for instance like Golden Eyes, it's just there's no need for like the helm.
The helm is worth it if you're doing like the meme beam demonic.
Yeah.
In
demonic,
dungeons,
100%.
Oh yeah, sure.
Well, I'm just talking about for raids right now.
Absolutely.
And then I forgot the trinket as well. The trinket's
great.
Yeah, the trinket's number 2. Yeah. After the belt. It's after the belt. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, the trinket's good. It's just obviously you lose a trinket slot, which is unfortunate.
Well, I guess you don't. I guess you lose one sort of, but that's you bring up the magnum opus, right? You bring up Pridas. You bring up this necklace that may even get buffed in the patch because they're buffing utility legendaries to give them throughput, which okay. If you didn't know about that, we'll see.
Yeah, I saw that.
But combining Kill Jaden's Burning Wish and Pridas is so much secondaries. I mean, these are
definitely.
The tooltips are 910s. They're not scaled up to 940s. But I mean, it's like what? It's probably 2,500 of those secondary stats all stacked together.
Yeah,
it's
it's definitely a
crazy.
lot.
The only issue with that is that you don't have the ring if you use Sprite as a trinket.
That's
Yeah,
very
you
true.
need the ring.
Of course. Of
So
course, of
yeah,
course.
if you don't use the ring, it's always, sad Pepe.
But if you're, I guess if you have the pick of the litter on any of these, I know we talked about how Syndaria, the belt, is really good, but not on every fight, because if the fight doesn't have anywhere else to use the 30% extra damage bonus, it's just kind of like, meh.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So obviously taking into account using it on fights is important. But outside of that, would you then suggest that the top two, probably Anger of the Half Giants plus Kill Jaden's Burning Wish, like for the all-arounders?
Yeah, I
Or
mean, all
Pride.
around, I think Prides and Ring is like a good combo to
Oh,
use
okay.
for like all around stuff. That's what I played most of this tier with, because I didn't
Oh.
have belt or the shoulders, and it was really nice on most bosses. On some bosses, you can obviously play like the Meme Beam, for instance, like Scorpion if you wanted to do that, or like Tichondrius depending on your strat.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most time, it's like you never unequip Ring, like that should never come
Sure.
off, and then it's just depending on the fight. So like some fights, you want Prides because it's execute damage. Other fights, say Crosis, you would take belt because all that matters is raw DPS.
Sure.
And then if there's a fight where you could maybe get add damage that synchronizes really well with the Kill Jadens, then you would lob on Kill Jadens.
Yeah.
The other legendaries are kind of situational for DH. Obviously, Prides is just static, but the other ones, you like belt and shoulders, it has to be situational to use them.
There's definitely a misunderstanding on how good the less flashy legendaries are for sure. But
Yeah.
it is something
There's
to
a
take
lot
into
of there's
Go
a lot
ahead,
of
go ahead.
misconception also about the trinket too, like about how to use it, which
Oh.
turns out to be a damage loss for a lot of people as well. I see people try to maximize the amount of uses they get out of the trinket when that's the wrong way to go about it.
Oh, okay.
The thing about the trinket is that the damage is flat and it does not DR. So,
Right.
like for example, let's say you have the trinket does like 100k DPS, that damage or whatever, and you can use it 5 times on a fight, right? So if you use it 5 times on the boss on single target, you'll get 500k damage from it. But if you use it 4 times and on one of the uses you can cleave 3 targets, you're going to use it 4 times. So that's 4 hit plus 3 targets. That's 7 hits. So that's 700k damage.
Yeah.
So,
So, like-
that's really important to keep in mind when using the trinket. It's not really about how
Right.
many uses you get out of it. It's more about how many targets you're
When.
going to hit with.
Yeah, like
And-
Spellblade's a good example. You can just obviously it's
Yeah.
more than the time, and then you just will use it on like the Frost ads and the Arcane ads, and since they're all stacked up, it's insane.
I brought this up when we were progressing on Spellblade. It didn't take us very long. We chose to go Crosis Botanist, which took us 4 days, and then Spellblade, and we did her in like maybe a night and a half total, so it was fine. But there's a bunch of raiders in the guild that have the Burning Wish, and only like one person used it. And I don't know the different hierarchies of which ones are better or not, but earlier kill videos I was watching of how smooth the more top progressed world guilds are pushing, they would group up the frost ads and like all their AoE stuff and like multiple burning wishes would fly out and then just gone. Whereas you'll watch my kill video and like we get 2 big frost ads and then we're done, right? But these it's so good on certain situations for sure. But yeah,
and we talked about that last night a bit also. Like we're getting to a point in the expansion where like people have like 5, 6, 7, 8 legendaries.
right.
And we're starting to get to a point where you're just using legendaries as like a talent or something.
Yep.
You get to a point where you're like, okay, on that fight, there's this that happens at that moment that we're having difficulties with. It's like the blockage for our progression on that fight, and that legendary is going to be really good for that. So I'm just going to use it and go with it. And that's especially true for Havoc, since beside the ring, there's nothing that really stands out as like an OP legendary. So you always want to use the ring and then use X other thing based on the fight at hand, which is perfect. I think it gives us an extra layer of like like, you know, stuff that we can bring to the raid and be useful for.
Yeah, I'm going to bring up, this might be a little broken real quick. I'm going to pull this down on screen. I'll bring up the trinket list you have here. And you have this huge list of Patrick data, SimC, Patrick raw data, hectic add cleave data, and all this kind of stuff like that. So see all of the trinkets. So here is the hierarchy of trinkets for you guys. And I'll let Kib talk about something else that is just shown up on the battlefield here, which is, you know, you can see how strong the Burning Wish is. And the Eye of Command with the set is really good. Eye of Command is just barely, it doesn't fall off a ton if you don't have the set, but obviously you want to prefer that. But then, what's this giant weird bar in the middle of like, oh, Major Domo's dinner bell. Oh.
Yeah, that's the tank trinket from Karazhan that pops every 3 weeks, which is, you know,
Yeah.
it's great because having more stam on your trinkets means that you die less, which means you do more damage, and that's obviously the only where the values of this trinket comes from. It's totally not because you snapshot your mastery and increases your damage by like 30% when your cooldowns are up. But yeah, that's basically it. It's literally that. The trinket copies the secondary stat of your food buff and increasing your mastery by 25% from the lowest version eye level of the trinket, which is always going to be better or equal. So the worst you're getting out of it is 25% increased damage for 12 seconds, while all your cooldowns on up that you stack on that 25% damage, that you stack on meta, that just gives you like really like, it basically gives you what mastery snapshotting that we had before gives you in terms of burst, which is crazy.
So the trinket reads, it's a 90-second cooldown, lasts for 15 seconds, increases a random secondary stat by a ridiculous amount. This is at 855 on WoWDB, and it's 7,400.
Yes.
But this is obviously a baseline version. So if you get a god tier roll of this, it could give you over 10,000. But the secondary stat, is it actually random or is it?
No,
Okay.
it's your food buff. Yeah.
It's your
food buff.
Yes. And then on top of that, you can add the Nightbane chest that gives you another 30% on it. So
Right. So
it gets crazy really quickly.
And that to bring that in perspective, because of mostly this is revolving around the fact of Chaos Blades, right? And how much damage you put out in that window.
Yes.
Okay.
And because mastery mastery becomes basically a flat stat damage increase at that point,
right,
while Chaos Blades is up. So
right,
you get a big wombo combo going on.
Yeah, no, it's a little silly. I have not gotten lucky enough to get one on my Demon Hunter yet, because I haven't seen one drop, but
not many people have.
No, yeah, I suppose. Because I think Dreams, you're on your armory, you're just playing 2 stat sticks right now, right? You just have 2 stat sticks.
Yeah, my trinkets are not very good. Yeah, like Eye of Guarms just didn't drop. That was like, I got that one like 3 weeks ago. So yeah, my trinkets are not good. I like playing with Memento a lot though. I know it like doesn't sim as high, but if you're doing like 5-mans or something with like the Pug Keystone, and you have some guy with Keystone, and they're dying a lot, you just spam proc like Master Mementos, and if that happens, obviously during Chaos Blades, it's just raw damage increase. So if there's ever mechanics going out when you're Chaos Blading and people are dying, it is fantastic. With people just feed, you get all the buffs.
And the last trinket I want to bring up here is, so the Draught of Souls. It's not drought. It's pronounced Draught. The Draught of Souls is stupid good for Unholy Death Knights and ridiculously good for warriors, because damage amps amplify its damage. But then how is that? Is how good is Draught? I guess for, I mean, it's high on the list, Kib, but is that only because of like every other use of it? It goes with Nemesis, or do you just use it sort of on? You have, let me go bring up this back. You have, you know, disclaimers here. Trinket is used on cooldown as long as Nemesis has 30 or more seconds remaining. Meta is not active, and the cooldown remaining on Blade Dance is longer than 3 seconds. So
Yeah. It basically comes down to that. Like the trinket, if you use the default simcraft, the trinket is basically like near to the bottom of the list. But when you add these like components to the APL, basically turns out to be the list that you see on the screen right now. It's really good if you use it under these terms, but at the same time, these terms make it like that in a real boss fight where real mechanics happen, where real stuff goes on. It's kind of It's a nice trinket to have for sure. Like if I'd have one, I'd definitely like toy around with it and whatnot. But it's not something that you should pursue until like, you know, your warriors, your DKs, your rogue have it, because they're going to get way more juice out of it than you.
Okay.
The only way you're getting a draw is if you coin one. It's probably not going to get looted to you ever.
Right. But it is definitely, it does look like it's worth it. Now, is it more worth it if you funnel all of its damage into a single target, or is it still kind of fine on AoE and cleave, or how does that?
No, you want to use it on patchwork settings.
Okay.
Like, because for one, you can't control where the trinket just hits something random that's like there when you use it.
Right.
So let's say you use it on like Mythic Botanist, you're probably going to waste 2/3 of it because it's going to go on the ads that you don't want to hit. And that damage just is worth nothing because the boss just heals when you kill one. So in these situations, it's awful. It's just bad. But if you use it on patchwork settings, it's obviously a ton of damage that you just dump there on the target that you want to use it on. So it's great.
The biggest issue with the trinket, though, I think, is that you have to have another keybind. Most demon hunters aren't used to hitting in their button.
Oh gosh, I actually. Yeah. So the way that my UI is set up on my stream, I just have my bars, the middle, bottom, underneath my art, and there's some black bordering when I have my 2 different damage windows and healing meters. But I had to like just put random stuff to fill in the train track because it looked really bad when I had like 9 empty squares. So I have like just crap macros I don't really use. I just have to fill in the boxes. So I'll take an extra keybind. I'll take a binding. I'll take something else to put there to fill in the box.
You can become a PvPer at that point and just have like 6 Chaos Strike binds and 17 meta icons and just to track your cooldowns better because, you know, default UI.
That's true. That is true. There was one thing that came up in chat a little bit ago here. Oh yeah, Rathadari said it about Nemesis, because Nemesis buffs trinkets because it causes the target to take extra damage, not you doing extra damage. But if you get the Nemesis buff from killing a target to get like the type, then it doesn't buff trinkets because then it's your damage being buffed.
They fixed that a while ago, but it used to be like that.
So is it
the first iteration of Drought would not work with anything Demon Hunter. It would work with debuffs on the target because the target would take more damage, but it would not work on self-buffs, and then they changed it. So now it works normally. It works how you'd expect it to work, but it used to be like that. They fixed that like not too long ago, though, so it went live without that fix being in, but now it's fixed.
Okay. Fair enough. And I guess the last thing up here is just going to be talent breakdowns and the different builds, which these are mostly just short summaries, thoughts, and the big thing you guys wanted to bring up was boss tips and things like that. So I'm going to bring up the talent calculator. And if you two want to take turns walking me through things. I know, Dreams, you were going over I think you were just running a key a little bit ago. But what is the full meme beam build that you could take for mnemonic, I guess is what it's called. In
the 99 tier, you take Blind Fury, obviously, because the entire spec just revolves around your I-beam. And then you take Demonic Appetite because every time you Chaos Strike, you can fracture a soul, and that, because of your artifact, will reduce the cooldown on I-beam and what's our stun called, Kib?
Chaos Nova.
Yeah, that thing.
Yeah. Feast on the Souls is what you're talking about, yeah.
And then for 102, you take First Blood because that's top damage regardless of spec. And Death Sweep is just going to decimate AoE. And then you want to take Soul Rending, obviously, to heal. It's an insane amount of healing, especially like on this week's affixes because of Skittish.
Yeah.
You're basically a tank. And then Momentum, because you're obviously doing a lot of AoE, and like Kib just said, and we just talked about, Nemesis only buffs your damage to one target. And since Dungeons is mainly AoE, gotta have that big 20% buff. And then the 108 tier, for me, I personally prefer Unleash Power, because it's really nice to getting the souls, and then you don't have to worry about building up. You can just walk into mobs, fall rush in, stun, you get 3 souls, and then you I-beam, and you're good. And then, obviously, the 110, you take Demonic. And I'll explain the thing again, you can just I-beam before you meta, and then I-beam in meta, and it allows you to have like a 15-second meta in Dungeons, which is generally very strong.
Now, how would you, since this is the build that does bring back Momentum a little bit, would you...
Yeah, this is like the super AoE build.
Right.
Maybe on like 2 bosses this entire tier. Maybe 3. I don't know. I think just 2. Just you played on Tichondries and Scorpion. And Scorpion.
You can play it on Tichondries if you do the double
the strat with the bloods. Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just
that's a lot of pad.
Meme Pyron.
Yeah.
But like, so I guess the priority I was leading to is, would you would rush I-beam, probably Death Sweep if there's enough GCD there, and then would you rush again, then I-beam again to snapshot the momentum into everything? Like, how does that? Because you got to weave it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What I do in Dungeons sometimes is you can Fel Rush in, use your ability, I-beam, and by that time, or not your ability, your artifact, and then I-beam, and by that time your first momentum's done, then you can Fel Rush, Death Sweep, and then you, generally if it's a large pack, you'll have I-beam up again, because you'll stun and have got souls back, and you I-beam again, you'll use your last Fall Rush, and then Death Sweep and Annihilate a few times. That's generally how it works on AoE.
Okay. But you want to, so, okay, you make sure you snapshot the momentum into your Will of the Illidari and your I-beams.
Oh, yes, of course.
Okay.
You want to aim for 100% momentum when you're in Demonic, and you can obviously just Fall Rush once and VR once, and then you're good.
Right. Yeah, you've definitely got to weave in the Vengeful Retreat at least in there. Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
That makes total sense, because I bring it up to make sure that we're on the same page for the other Havocs out there that may have not played with momentum in a few months.
Yeah.
So, okay. Make sure you put it back. I mean, it's like riding a bike, I suppose. I played with it for a little while. I played the Fel Barrage Momentum Fel Mastery build for a while for Dungeons, so I was a little bit aware of how this worked, but that sounds good. So that is the memonic build, I suppose.
Yeah, Meme Beam. A lot of names for it. It's generally just a dungeon spec that is very situational in raids if you need like crazy sustained AoE.
How about the new El Clasico standard, Kib? You want to walk me through the Fel Blade, Demon Blades as our Overlord spec real quick here?
Yeah, it basically, like you said, you start with Fel Blade, then Demon Blade and First Blood, everything in the middle. And afterwards, since we're talking more about a raid spec, raid more central spec, you obviously take a Netherwalk because of how broken it is, with the couple example we mentioned earlier. And afterwards, you go into Nemesis because it's just better for raids, and you finalize it with Master of the Glazing, Chaos Blades. Yeah, I don't know if there's much to really talk about. It's very straightforward build.
Yeah.
It just press your things on cooldown and go for it.
Well, I have some things to make sure I talk about here, nitty gritty wise. The opener with this spec, I've heard and I've experienced and I've tested out some things myself about like how to open. And that's always the thing that it's get brought up about, you know, how do you open, blah, blah, blah. And do you have like the ipso facto definitive opener with this sort of build that you can sort of relay out there to everybody?
Yeah, well, if you're a horde, it's way better opener just because of Arcane Torrent. So sorry, Alliance people. But the horde opener basically goes, you meta when you pre-pot, jump in with your pre-pot. then you just macro all of that together. It's like Arcane Torrent, Nemesis, Chaos Blades, and Dead Sweep. Because
Wow.
Arcane Torrent will give you 15 Fury, which is exactly what you need for Dead Sweep, so you can just dump that in right away. And you just follow up the priority list afterwards. So you just drop your Illidari, your artifact weapon, you Fellblade to get your cooldowns rolling, and then you just spam Annihilation forever. And just gotta keep pressing Dead Sweep on cooldown afterwards, and you just keep spamming Annihilate with as much fury as you can.
Yeah.
If you're an Alliance, though, you kind of have to just Fellblade first. So you still want to meta jump in with your pot, and then you just Fellblade first to get your fury going, and then you Dead Sweep, and then drop your artifact weapon, and then you just follow up.
Now, do you... Because the way that I felt that the best uptime was, because you told me this, because when I was first working on this build, I poked you in Discord, what's the best thing? And I didn't realize that Will Illidari, at least in single target, is okay damage, but it's not worth it. You want to make sure you get 3 death sweeps in the time of Chaos Blades.
Yes.
So to do so, you would jump in, Fellblade, then you'd pop your Nemesis and your Chaos Blades on the global, and then you would immediately death sweep. And then you prioritize that on cooldown over everything else. Normally, you sort of end Will the Illidari sort of toward the end of it when you have a global. Is that
right?
Okay.
Right. Dead Sweep just becomes like your top priority. Like, well, if you have First Blood, Blade Dance is the biggest thing you can ever use, always on cooldown. The only time you may want to delay it is if, like, for example, like, let's say Gul'dan, and you have like the 6 eyes coming up in like 1 second or whatever, then you can delay your Blade Dance or Dead Sweep to position yourself in the middle of the eyes to get Balance Blade to buff your First Blood a lot. And then you dump all that damage onto Gul'dan, because you get damage buff per target around you when you use it. So that's really the only situation when you want to delay Blade Dance by any amount of time. Outside of that, you want to use it on cooldown when it's ready, like right away. Delaying it by 1 second is a mistake, basically.
And then also, we didn't bring this up earlier. I mean, there are a talent section now. First Blood does act kind of funny on multiple targets, right? Because the extra damage hits something you hit during Blade Dance, unless you hit one target only.
It hits your actual target.
Oh, your actual targeted target.
Yeah.
Yes, all of beta, it was working that it would hit the first target that the animation hits, which would the top left target on the hitbox.
Yeah.
But now it works as it hits your target. So they fixed that. I think they fixed that mid Emerald Nightmare in like a random patch somewhere, nowhere. But no one used that talent back then, so it kind of got under the radar. But yeah, now you really want to. It just, if you're targeting something, it's going to hit that target. Okay. The only drawback from that is if your target dies after you press the button, you lose out the damage. If the target is out of your range when you use it, you lose the bonus. But otherwise, if the target is there and inside the hitbox, it's going to hit the target.
So, and I'll bounce back over here to the talents again, because this is the 2 builds that really dominate right now. Is there anything else you want to bring up about the other talents that are possibly worth it? I know that if you have bracers, Bloodlet is not bad if it bounces to all 3 targets. Otherwise, it's kind of meh. And then, like, go ahead.
There's some legendary like shenanigans. Obviously, like if you're running Mythic Plus and you have the bracers, Bloodlet, it gains a lot of value because you'll always get the 3 bounces all the time. So that's decent for that. There's also Fell Eruption. That's kind of good on Gul'dan. Unleash Power has some uses on some fights as well when stuns are needed. That's basically it, though.
So Chaos. I want to bring up Chaos Cleave because this on the 715 PTR went through a lot of different changes, and if you don't know how this works, even it works on single target, it's just a 10% Chaos Strike damage increase because it's like an aura.
Yeah, it's an 8 yard. You can view it as like an 8 yard circle around your character. Everything inside of that will just take 10% of your Chaos Strike damage.
Right.
So obviously your main target is inside that circle around you, so it increases the damage on single target as well.
But it didn't shape out to be, because it was really strong and like set and forget on the PTR, and then it got tweaked down to 10%, which is much more understandable. This still doesn't eke over First Blood though? Do you think that it would? I mean, it could always change in 7.2, and as gear grows and grows and you get more and more mastery, I'm sure there's some mathematical value point for it to become a talent of choice, but not right now, huh?
Yeah, I saw it pop up in chat a couple seconds ago.
Yeah.
Basically, the math on it now is if you have like 116% mastery, it's better than First Blood.
Huh.
So there's that. So.
Oh. Interesting.
But, yeah.
And I guess the last point I wanted to bring up before we take a few questions from chat is Demon Reborn is still dead, huh?
Yeah,
Yep.
That's not worth using ever.
Unless they bring it back to beta version where it worked on every spell, it's probably gonna stay dead forever.
Yeah, it's a PvP talent. Could synergize with PvP talents because you go into meta a lot more often. But that's about all I can imagine it works for.
It could work if they made it work with the demonic meta invocation, or whatever. But even then,
worked with Nemesis, it'd be the best talent ever.
Yeah, that's where we go back to beta, because on beta you could Nemesis the target, and you meta, and then you Nemesis again, and it was multiplicative.
Yeah.
Well, I remember you would Nemesis Chaos Blaze and then meta Nemesis Chaos Blades again.
Yeah.
That was some shenanigans there for sure. And the last one I wanted to make sure I get the same thing on here is you said in like the standard build. I'll slap it up on the screen again real quick for those of you, like the El Clasico current all around build for rating. Master of the Glaive you suggested, and that is just because it gives you 2 charges. And it's a filler, right?
Yeah, it basically just gives you 2 charges of your filler instead of 1.
Right.
So it's less AFK GCDs.
So for instance, in meta, if you're on Alliance and you don't get any procs on the pole, you can just, Fell Rush or throw Glaive while your Demon Blade slowly start getting you up there to 40 or whatever it is.
I didn't think about that. The caveat to if you're Alliance, that feels bad.
Yep. Yeah, it's Arcane Torrent is just too strong. Well, I mean, I'm not gonna say it's too strong because then it's gonna get nerfed. So Arcane Torrent is super balanced.
Yeah,
Arcane Torrent is balanced. It's just that Shadow Meld is a bit weak.
Yeah,
if I can say that, Kappa.
So I guess the last little bit we have here is some Havoc soapbox and a couple questions from chat. We're just basically at around time right now, so if you saw anything that chat brought up, or if chat brings up something real quick that you want to address, or you want to soapbox about, or answer a question or two, we have time for that.
I've been answering a lot of questions just typing.
Oh yeah, of course, which is totally fine.
If people wanna throw stuff in.
Yep.
Right
yeah,
now.
if you just ping any of us, we'll just answer it.
There's also Fell Eruption that might be worth mentioning for Mythic Gul'dan more precisely, because of how the fight works. You lose a lot of Nemesis on the fight just because of how things are spaced out, which ekes out that Fell Eruption is basically equal overall damage, but it gives you way better priority target damage because you get that dump on the ads when they spawn, and on the eyes that go like the 6-eye spawn. There's one in China. So you fell Eruption that eye in China for 6 million, and then you feel good about yourself because you soloed it.
Yeah.
And then you get to the Illidan phase where it takes 150% damage. You get a mastery proc, you get Chaos Blades, and you just Fell Eruption for 15 million. It's always great. So there's a lot of fantasy with Fell Eruption on Mythic Gul'dan. But that's basically it for that talent.
So we didn't really go over this during the secondary stats section a little earlier, but I guess there's a question from Original in chat. So there's no cap for your crit to aim for, right? There's no aiming on any of your secondaries that you want to get to and then like stop worrying about them or anything like that. There's nothing like that for Havoc.
I mean,
Well, you can, if you want to cap, you can have 90% crit with the force set bonus, and then you stop. But it's not likely to be achievable. So
Okay.
in beta,
beyond
we could
that,
have
yeah.
100%.
What Dreams?
I know, right?
In beta, we could have 100%. I remember Kib had a
Yep.
stupid set with 80 sockets.
Yep.
Yeah.
And just 600. That was so,
Yeah, I had 101% crit chance on beta.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
well,
then
That was
Dude.
before they nerfed the gems.
And then Uru here, probably ruining your name. You said Demon Reborn is dead. How would you achieve the 50-second meta without it then?
For the 50-second meta, that's with the demonic talent, not Demon Reborn,
Right.
and it's completely unrelated. It's just
Okay.
the way demonic works is it just adds time on to your meta, and if you meta during demonic, it'll just add the time. So your first thing is 8 seconds, or
Yeah,
it's 10, but you have 8 seconds to actually do stuff. So
The
you do
the
that,
only
then you meta.
the only part I guess that can kind of get confusing there is like it's way easier to achieve that with the legendary helm,
Mhm.
because
okay.
for it to be achievable, you need to get another I-beam within the first 8 seconds of your first I-beam that you use. So basically you proc demonic, and then right after proccing demonic through I-beam on an AoE pack, you want to stun with your like Chaos Nova, and you get a bunch of souls. You pick up these souls, you reduce the cooldown on I-beam by 5 seconds, and then you pop meta, and then you I-beam again because you reset your I-beam cooldown.
Yeah.
You don't reset it through Demon Reborn, you reset it through like soaking all the orbs from the AoE. But if you
Okay.
have the helm, it just makes it infinitely easier because, you know, on a 6 target pack, you already get like your I-beam cut in half.
That's also why in this build too you take Unleashed Power.
Yes.
Yeah. I guess you could make it work. I get the question does bring up the chance that you could make it work with Demon Reborn because you are going to I-beam. You're going to be in your demonic form, and then you're going to invoke meta, which resets I-beam, and then you can I-beam again. There is a way to do that, but then that forces you to you have to have the Fury, right? Opposed to just taking Unleashed Power, which makes it free.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then shattering off a bunch of soul fragments, and you pick them all up, and you're picking them up with Demonic Appetite, so you fill your Fury bar up anyway. So, yeah, then you get like
and even napkin matting it around, like you can just do it like in your head real quick. Like think of a mythic plus run, say like 15 minutes, right? So in that 15 minutes, you'll get 4 metas out. So you get 4 extra I-beams from the talent.
Mhm.
But if you count the souls, like I-beam is like 45-second cooldown. So it's 5 seconds per soul. So you need basically like an average of 3 souls per stun that you use to make the stun better. And you can stun every 30 seconds in a run. So you just do quick math around it, and the stun talent is just more I-beams than the talent.
Yeah,
Right.
I think that's nice with the stun talent too. Is every time you get a soul, it reduces the CD of your stun as well. So if say you have like 5 seconds left, you can just throw like a super DR stun on the targets to get your last few souls, and then cast another I-beam, and then keep going. So it's really nice that it just works well together with the demonic appetite with the unleashed power.
Yeah, even if the target are, because you don't have to. Do you have to stun the target with
No.
Chaos
just
Nova
need to
to get the
cast.
soul? Okay, it's yeah.
As long as the target is not immune to damage, it has a chance to give you the soul.
How about other questions here? Oh, I mean, Northern Man wants to know which weapon skin do you both use, but both of you are transmogged to swords right now.
I use purple glaives right now, like the purple big
Purple glaives?
Yeah. What do you mean?
Which model of the purple glaives?
Let me
The hidden skin or the
hidden skin.
I use the hidden skin right now because I'm getting the other colors unlocked.
It's these ones. It's like I don't know what these are called.
You don't know what these are called? What do you? Oh, you just leaked your. What do you got here? What do you got here?
Okay, yeah.
I have those. Yeah. I don't know. Those are good.
Those are the. That's like the perfect form, the unlocked form. I think.
If you can.
Yeah.
If you can get a 2-minute meta, it's worth using belt over ring plus belt over the shoulders on like shorter fights, like Croesus, for example, and stuff like that. So that its belt is more damage than shoulders usually. So if damage, like if overall damage is important, then you want to keep the belt on.
Your other question, Northern Man, was answered earlier in the show, and I think Rathadari's trolling wants to know about the almighty and only good legendary for Havoc, Sephuz. I mean, Sephuz is probably not bad, but it's not great.
I think Sephuz is good on like every class in dungeons because you can obviously interrupt and stun a lot, but in raids it's so like hit or miss. Like some classes can't proc on pull, other classes can, so it's just unfair.
I mean, the best use of Sephuz is when you tank in dungeons, because you lose all your movement speed buff from the mastery you get from Havoc, and you feel slow. You just use Sephuz to move fast.
Oh, okay. Here's actually a really good question from Original again. And this is actually a thing I don't even know about. This might school me. I just use Prolonged Power all the time, which I don't know if that's correct or not. Is there when do you use Old War over Prolonged? Or do you use Prolonged all the time? Or do you use Old War all the time? How does that... What's your potion hierarchy?
Old War on single target. Prolonged Power on 3 target plus AoE.
Yeah.
This is basically what it comes
If you're a really cheap Demon Hunter and you can't afford the Old Wars, it's not the worst. I know sometimes I do Prolongs and Heroic, but Old War definitely goes in on single target. And Prolong, sometimes it's worth doing on a pull if like ads spawn within like 45 seconds. Like on Gul'dan, I prolonged on pull because then you hit ads. So just because it's like a single target boss doesn't mean like you shouldn't be prolonged on pull, because if ads spawn, you're gonna get more use out of the prolong than you would the Old War.
Okay.
Yeah, Gul'dan's a fight where you need both potion binds basically. You pre-pot prolong, then you second pot Old War.
Yep. I can understand that. Enhancement right now is just prolonged all the time because we just want the buff to last a long time during ridiculous amounts of Stormstrike RNG. We don't have any... That's the thing, too. As far as I remember, Prolonged Power is just, obviously flat agility. But Old War, the echoes, the ghosts that pop off of you, those will do more damage if you're under the effect, or you, like Nemesis, for example, right? The target takes 20% more damage. Will that increase the damage of your Old War ghosts?
Yes. Yeah, it does. And the damage done from the ghost is also haste based. So if you're under lust or stuff like that, they're going to do more damage.
Yep. That's why Old War sucks for enhancement.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not that great. Rathadari wants to know about the Monk Chi Waves on Mythical Dan, but that's for the BTS podcast.
Yeah, no comment there.
Yeah.
God.
The trigger.
And
how do you open for Gul'dan? Yeah, for Gul'dan, generally you want to save your meta until after bonds. So you hit the boss, build a load of fury, probably Blade Dance, and then you wait for the bonds to go out, and then you can meta and hit your action button, and then go ham. Usually you want to save like Chaos Blades and Eye Beam for the eyes.
They're probably referring about... I'd assume most people ask that in like a book setting, because you get the 3 ads at the beginning. There's basically a couple ways you can go about it. Most guilds usually raid the Inquisitor, I think it's called, the second big ad that spawns.
Yeah.
So it really depends on what you're doing. I know when we do it, like when we do heroic on the weekend on alts or whatever, I just pop everything on Gul'dan and just Zerg him and then cleave the ads. And that's what I do, but I guess I'm just lazy about it as well. Ideally, you'd wanna go on Gul'dan, use Gul'dan as a fury generator. You just build your resources on him, and then when the Inquisitor pop, you dump everything onto him. You just gotta make sure you don't get hit by the fail beam when you use your extraction button there. So you might want to save the extraction button for after the fell beam's out. Make sure you don't get hit by it. And then you
After
just
that
zerg
spell
the
beam
Inquisitor.
burst, it's a good one. Good time to use the button.
Yeah, and then you get the Nemesis buff to cleave the other 2 targets after the first target's dead.
See, I guess I scumbag that because I save all of my cooldowns and my extra action button for after the first. Okay, I'm not working on Mythic cooldown, obviously, but on for heroic stuff, I've always thought like, why would I ever use any of these cooldowns not on Gul'dan? So I wait until the transition, and then I wait until the bonds go out, and then I everything, and I just stand there and turret on Gul'dan.
Yeah, that works too.
Yeah.
It's mostly that I mean I got the belt, so I like dominating everyone for 15
Oh, it's
seconds.
Yeah, if you have belt, you just sit on Gul'dan until he goes immune.
So you just tunnel Gul'dan, and then your raid leader yells at you because you do less damage than the tank the first big ad, and
yeah.
you almost ignore him, but you acknowledge him just a little bit, and yeah. But then again, like you just do the right thing and you switch to the first target, and you don't pad, basically, just in the better interest of the raid.
To sort of go off of Original's last little bit of question there, Northern Man asked about your opinion on Demon Hunter needs to stay relevant in the future. We kind of go over the relevance of Demon Hunter in the beginning of the show, and then to cap this off so we can close out here, I don't know about the mixing of tier 20 and tier 19 sets, because the rumor mill is that you're not going to be able to, but they haven't blue posted about how that's going to work, even though for like enhancement, if it's possible, I'm doing 2-piece tier 19 and 4-piece tier 20 because my 2-piece tier 19 is too strong. Even 30 eye levels of difference is still too good. But they they haven't said yet.
If it works, like whenever it works, I haven't looked at the tier 20 itemization yet for a set bonus.
Right.
But if it works, you can already snipe 2-piece from tier 19 to bribe your raid to get all the tokens until you get 925 socketed versions of them.
Right.
So that you can carry them for next year. But yeah,
well,
that's stuff to plan out after you kill every boss and you're farming and whatnot.
Yeah, I think that the post came out from Ian Hazakostas. Watcher said that they don't see it as a problem and they'll address it as it happens. But as far as it looks like now, then we can mix them and have 6 set bonuses, the 6 pieces to have 3 set bonuses active. But I don't know. Relying on that seems really stupid because I'm going to wear my tier 19 the whole expansion then.
It already kind of works because you can use the dungeon 2-piece along with your 4 set.
That's true.
So it kind of is the same thing in that regard.
That's true.
My thing is I just don't have to go back and do Nighthold to get a Warforged 2-piece.
Oh,
Yeah.
shut up.
You want to get it right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I have 920. I have a bunch of like 920 pieces, but they're all like the bad ones. I got like 920 gloves.
Oh gosh.
Like that's just awful.
Don't worry, haste is gonna get great in 2019.
But I think that's going to do it. That's a little bit extra time for the Q&A there at the end. But unless you have anything else you wanted to add to the players out there, the listeners, do you have anything else, Dreams? Are you good?
Yeah, join the Fellhammer. Lots of memes. Let's go. Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Kib, what do you got? Anything?
Yeah, I mean, any other question that we might have missed or anything, just hit us up in the Fellhammer. That's where we mostly hang out. And yeah, keep the memes ongoing. Meme beam your way through Mythic Plus. And yeah, don't pad. Your raid leader don't like it.
But if you are the raid leader, just pad all you want.
Okay, I'm going to hit the button and we're going to close this out. All right, that button has been pressed. Oh, gosh. Thank you all so much for tuning into episode number 131 of Final Boss TV, your WoW and Game rating show. Today was Legion's Havoc Demon Hunters. Next week should be Shadow Priest, followed by Disc Holy, followed by Vengeance Demon Hunter, sort of sandwiching those together. And then April, for 4 Sundays in a row, will be Druid, 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 and Druid. The Druid History Month will be in April. You can always bother me on the live stream, and I can go over the schedule more in detail. Guests, of course, get updated and posted on Twitter as I get those all worked out So tune in for those next week. If you've missed any of the past episodes, of course, they are on the YouTube channel, linked down below, so you can go check that out down there. And of course, the show is also audio only on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play Music. Linked, of course, you can just Google, and search for Final Boss TV on those platforms, or the RSS feed, of course. The hook, I think, is on my website, so you can go check those there. And if you want more podcasts, check out the Patreon page. There is the BTS Patreon podcasts that are the unscripted, sort of behind the curtain, just us setting up and talking about things, and some extra nuggets come out of there. But around the table again to the guest today, there's Dreams. You can go follow him on Twitter at DreamsXWow. Thank you very much for being on the show, sir. Your pompadour is appreciated.
Oh, shit. Thanks for having me, dude.
Got him.
Dreams didn't know what a pompadour was, but he has a little bit of one going on, chat. Back me up on this. Back me up.
No.
It doesn't look bad. It's fine. Did I just ruin, is the Felhammer gonna just make up a whole bunch of, Photoshop a bunch of hair on him? Go do it.
I'm gonna take Dream's face and just make a meme in Felhammer with it.
Okay.
We already have it. Babe,
Like-
it's literally already there.
Like Pompadour. Yeah, I'm just gonna call it Pompadour.
Let's do it. And then there's
Gonna be
Kib.
great.
You can go follow Kib on Twitter as well at Kibs0K. It's Kibs OK, but it's a 0.
Yeah.
So you can go check him out for there. Thank you for being on the show, sir. I appreciate the time.
This was great being on.
You're slowly fading off into the shadow realm
Yeah,
right now.
I know. It's dark in Canada.
Yeah. But thank you very much for your time on the show today, gentlemen. Thank you very much for watching. Again, links down below for YouTube and stuff like that if you want to check it out or listen to the ones in audio only. That's going to do it for me here. Thank you all so much for watching. Trust in your seal of artifact power. That's all it's good for right now, right? I mean, we can keep farming. Get the 54 on your main weapon because you get 4 traits or so in the patch. So, and get your order hall resources above 60,000. You need those. But until next week, everybody. Bye! Bye! Wave bye at the nice people. Wave bye.
Okay, hand.
Okay, hand. Yeah, okay, it's fine. Yeah, I deserve that.